Am I audible, dear participants? Hello. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. So you have enjoyed the fabulous speech and the most informative session from Sri Chandrasekhar Reddy sir. So he is going to take up the second session of this today's workshop. Sir, I kindly request you to take over the session, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. So
Thank you.
just share my screen.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I will do in this session is this is more of maybe few minutes. We'll just go through the PPT content and then we'll get on to the our lab setup. So this session, I think in the previous session we understood a little bit about different type of, I mean, not different type of malwares, but what is malware and what is APT attack and what are the genesis behind those things. We spoke a little bit about it. So in this session, we'll talk a little bit on the spear phishing attack. So spear phishing attacks typically don't target the operating systems directly or networks directly. These are kind of credential stealing related attacks or session cookies stealing. So especially when any API transactions or any website related ones or any application backend APIs. So that's where these things are really useful to steal money, steal passwords, steal sensitive cookie information so that they can access your Facebook account, LinkedIn accounts, and things like that. And also we'll talk about a framework called Metasploit, which is there for quite some time, and this is also developed by offensive security team members. They have a couple of major projects. One is especially on Kali Linux box, which have all the tools. And also they have something called exploit-db, exploit-db.com to manage, and I will just show you that website. They publish every day different type of vulnerabilities and exploits which are already publicly available in their website. And Metasploit is basically one of the major important open source tool on Ruby framework. In fact, that is the largest tool ever written on Ruby framework. And it is also part of the Kali Linux box. The Metasploit is used for generating payloads and all those things. We'll talk about that. And then the last one is we'll spend a little time on the sysinternal tools. Again, this is a set of many tools which is currently owned by Microsoft to do a lot of debugging, forensic analysis, or live system monitoring. So especially some of the questions which we got in the previous session, how we can look into our system more deeply. So that's where the sysinternal comes. Maybe I'll try to introduce Wireshark also. So I think that's the session is all about. So I think as we discussed, what is Metasploit? Metasploit is a framework. Is a very powerful tool which can be used by the researchers and the cyber criminals basically to find out system vulnerabilities and also the network related issues. So what happens is whenever you find a vulnerability, typically what happens is to find that particular vulnerability is really exploitable or not. I think you all understand what is the difference between the vulnerability and exploit. Vulnerability is a weakness and exploit is basically we can take the advantage of that weakness and actually get a foothold on the system and gain access to the system. Exploit is a little bit more saying something is weak versus really able to break down that is an exploit. Okay, and so basically Metasploit framework is basically used to test all those vulnerabilities and exploits on network systems, whatnot, in a very easy manner. Otherwise, previously we used to depend on many scripts and manual or semi-manual processes. Okay, and also, so as I said, where we can use Metasploit, you can also create a lot of command shell payloads where once you get an exploit, you are able to exploit something. You can run some payload. Payload is nothing but a set of instructions. For each operating system, it will differ. And again, I don't want to touch too much on this Metasploit, but I'm going to give you a very good link for Metasploit Mega Primer video link by one of our friend Vivek Ramchandran. I'll just show you where it is. I highly encourage your students to go through it and understand it. It is, I think it has around 20-25 videos. Explains from starting to end of the Metasploit very, very well. So I'll just show you that link in a minute where people can go through it if you are really interested in understanding and get more deeper things on the Metasploit. So basically Metasploit can act as a command control center. You can create payloads and you send it to the victim. Once the victim basically opens it or whatever it is, then Metasploit acts as a CNC server and you will be able to interact with the victim. Okay. So Metasploit has many modules. It is not only just from the exploit side, but also it is useful to do scanning of the networks, and you can also just use it as a simple payload listener, or also you can use more as a post exploitation thing. Once you get foothold on the system, to listen to the conversations, to grab the system screens, to exfiltrate, infiltrate, lot many things you can do post exploitation. Or you can even use this to create VPNs, you can create lateral movement and not many things. So I mean, just more than a simple tool, it is like a framework. That's why we call it as a framework, and it's completely open source and it is written on Ruby. So, okay, let me, before get into the spear phishing, let me show you that link where you all can, it's called securitytube.net. If you go to this specific link, in this link, there is a Metasploit Mega Primer. If you go to the Mega Primers, in this, if you see Metasploit Framework Export. So please click on that and you will see series of videos starting from how to even set up a virtual machine using the virtual box of Oracle software, and till you become the expert and writing some more modules to it. There are 27 videos are there. Each video is anywhere between 5 minutes to 20 minutes video. Please go through this. If you have any issues in going through this, please drop me a mail. We will basically give you the complete dump of it. So it is a really useful video series to understand Metasploit in much more deeper sense. They talk about how to even go through multiple stuff, and it's really interactive, very good. And so let me talk about spear phishing. So as I explained, spear phishing is basically send some mail or some link or SMS or whatever it is. So some information will come to you. They will make you to click on it, and they try to, as I explained, the primary goal of spear phishing is get login passwords by popping up login password screens, or stealing your session cookies so that they can get into your session based or user authentication based website, or basically making you to authorize some transactions or do some things on behalf of you without your permission. So spear phishing is a very high level word where people used to do scams in those 3-4 categories, what I just explained, especially when there is sensitive information like login passwords, credit card information, any financial related transactions, and cookies and all this stuff. So that's where, I mean, we'll go through a simple way of creating, how to create a spear phishing link and how to send it to the customer or a target person. Now we can actually, I'll just show you a toolkit. So what is the typical methodology people follow for these things is they try to go and first harvest the logins, email addresses of people using, there are multiple techniques are there, but one of the techniques people use is OSNIT, open source intelligence tools, where they try to grab the, there are again so many tools available in Kalibox in OSNIT. They gather, let us say if I want to do it on let us say, some specific division of government of India, when I know that specific domain of that division, I try to give that division as input to the tool. It goes and looks at multiple Twitter, LinkedIn, Google, multiple websites. Is there any emails associated with that specific domain published somewhere, knowingly, unknowingly, whatever it is? So it gathers all those emails, and then on top of it, they create campaigns like the ones which we talked about, specific to some US elections, some coronavirus, or some specific, some big breaking news where people are really interested to click on it, so that they don't really give much attention to the context, or whether it is really good, right or not. Okay, and these things can even go to the level where they really hack the people, and then they send from that specific email account. So it is not even about even uh, direct. I mean, sometimes we call it as spoofing mails. It won't be sometimes even not the spoofing mails. It will be directly they attack one specific account or server. They create an account and then they create. Or sometimes they create domains which are very close to looks like the main website, like icicibank.com. Maybe they make ICICI instead of maybe they use L or whatever it is, or instead of zero it may be O, whatever it is. So they create domains and then they use those domains to send email campaigns. So these are very common in creating these phishing campaigns. So that's why these are extremely difficult to figure them out. That's why whenever you're clicking on any email, or whenever you're clicking on any link attachment or a link, you have to be extra cautious always. And even after clicking on them, especially when it is asking for any type of login password, um, my technique always to be away from them is I have two techniques. One technique is I always give the wrong login or a password. One of them I'll always give wrong. So that way, if it is a real system, it actually throws me an error. If it is a wrong campaign or it is not the real one, it always takes me to the next step. So which clearly proves that I'm trying to participate in a phishing campaign. The second technique I use is, I'll just show you that. Let us say if I had to go through some website like this, let us say I have online SBI Bank. Let us say if my email ID is this one. So what I do is, typically the way how these guys grab the information is, so let us say my account number is 1009001. So if this is something which I wanted to type, so I don't, let us say initially I type 9001, and because the key logger is taking the information directly the way how you type it, they don't understand the mouse. I put my cursor to the front and type 100. So when my login goes to the hacker, he thinks my login is 9001 But in reality, my actual login is 1009001. So I used a technique called simple cursor change, which is impossible for the attacker to basically grab that information in that direction. So this is my techniques, two techniques I use. One is giving the wrong information in the first attempt to check whether the system is right or wrong, because most 99.99% of the phishing campaigns, when you give the information, they redirect it to the main one. I will show you anyways. And the second one is to evade from the this keyloggers and all. I give my certain portion of my login or a password first, and then I use the cursor to the right location and type the remaining one. So these are my two techniques I use in my typical to evade phishing campaigns, or when I use somebody else systems to access my bank accounts and all those things. Okay, so I already just spoke about all these things, the email harvesting and the different type of social media websites people use, or in fact, a lot of people create fake profiles with intimidating you and some famous personalities, and become friends with them and for a duration of a long time, and then the situation comes, they use that thing to get some money or whatever it is. So it's very important. You don't believe it even the NSA, the top-notch security agency in US, even the head of those things, also people were victims of this kind of fake profile things. So sometimes people just look at the images of the photos or the names, designations, without really checking with those people. They just accept them and think they are the real people, and even they will maintain for months and years as if they are the real people. And at the time comes, they basically misuse it. Okay, and very very important. So we have to be ultra careful. So again, some of the statistics towards how these phishing attacks, what percentage of these things targets businesses and the groups and whatnot. I mean, there's a percentages keep changing, doesn't matter, as long as usually the phishing campaigns are always to a targeted person or an entity or a organization, so or a business one. So it's always they have something in their mind. They got a contract, they got a motive behind it for whatever reason. Okay, so how we can mitigate? I already told some of my techniques. Typically, I use, which generally you don't find it anywhere. Giving wrong password for the first time or a wrong login, and second thing, giving the right information in a different fashion with a cursor change. That also keeps you safe from these kind of things. And definitely one very important thing I strongly recommend is people should enable their two-step verification either through SMS or a third party. We call it as a multi-factor apps. So Microsoft has something called Authenticator. Google also has an Authenticator. So where you can basically keep that second step password, which is dynamic, like your transaction passwords like that. So whenever you try to, even if you know my Gmail password, it won't let you log in because it basically asks for the next one-time password through my SMS. It comes to my device. So I think these 2-3 simple techniques you follow, and clicking, if you really understand the sensitivity of clicking, is very 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 dangerous. I think you are fine. Changing passwords, keeping different passwords, difficult passwords is good, but I think these ones what I told are more important than those things. Okay. Okay, so let us get into some of these things before we even go to the sysinternals tools. So, okay, let me show you a first simple. So let us say this is one of my website. I wanted to really create a phishing campaign. So this is my online banking SBA bank. So what I do is I open up my Kali Linux toolbox, and there are multiple tools on this Kali Linux. When you download this ISO file and load into your virtual box, to log into the machine, it has multiple things. One thing I use is something called SCT OL kit. It's called Social Engineering Toolkit. You can see here. It is an open source, again created by David Kennedy, but basically there are many people are actually contributing to this one. So it is a menu driven command line tool, but let me take you through it. First, I'm going to enter into the social engineering attack toolkit. I click on it, then it again gives me multiple options, whether I wanted to generate a spear phishing attack vector website. So I wanted to take website attack vector, click on that. And again, I have multiple options, whether you wanted a Java applet attack or a Metasploit browser exploit method. So, but I wanted to, in this specific one, I wanted to create a credential harvester attack method. Click on that. Now it is again asking multiple things. I wanted to use site cloner. You can see here. Click on that. Okay, so this is the place. What it is saying is, when you've gone into that specific site cloning machine, where you wanted the CNC controller to be present. So in this specific one, I don't want to really publicly available this because it's my local VM. My local VM's IP address is 10.0.0.14. In the real way, I'm going to create a domain or take a public IP, which when I send a link to anybody else, when they click on it, I will be able to get that command controller back. But in this case, I'm going to keep it local attack. So that is the same IP I want to keep it. Here it is to ask me what URL you want to clone. So it is as simple as that. So let me pick up the cloning URL. Maybe I will take this is I studied from bits plan login. Let us see that one if that works. I mean, I don't encourage you to do this, but I'm just trying to see whether it works or not. And I'm going to click on, let us say, bits email. Oh, bits email is actually going into Gmail. Gmail, but let me go to for students, maybe okay. I'll click on the student this thing. So it has multiple things here. Let me do one thing. Rather, I mean, okay, let me click on the login. So you can see there is a login password here in this thing. So I wanted to copy this one. I'm just copying it. Right click, copy, and go back to our tool where we are right now and paste it. So if you see it here, the URL what we pasted here is nalanda.bits-pilani.in login index.php. What it is going to do is it is going to clone that specific website into this IP address. It is going to copy all the content of that index.php file under the login folder into this local website so that I can take this URL and give it to people. So when they open up that specific IP address, they will exactly see the replica of what you just saw it. I will just let me press enter. It is trying to clone now locally. And once it is done, it is going to tell me that the website is cloned and it is ready to be served on this local IP address. So once it says ready, then I'm going to show you how exactly it looks like.
Sir, is this tool HD track?
Sorry, what is that?
Is this HD track tool for cloning? Which tool you have used, sir? I missed it actually. The command.
I used it is a set toolkit. It is called SET set toolkit, social engineering toolkit, part of Kali Linux.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, let it do it. I mean, meanwhile, what I will do is I'm going here. So this is this one. So I'm going to open up a new incognito window. I'm going to type 10.0.0.14, which is my local IP address. Once, if it is able to clone everything properly, I should be able to get that specific one in my machines. Okay, let me just look at my new tab. Okay, I have internet access, no problem. Let me try another URL maybe quickly. This is a tool I used, set toolkit 1, 2, and then initial harvester, site cloner, enter. Yeah. So what I will do is I will just let me, for whatever reason this didn't happen. Maybe let me take online SBI. That is much easier. I think anything doesn't matter. Okay, I'm going to take this page and give it here. Okay, so basically it cloned that website called retail.onlinespa.com /retail into my local one, and it is just obviously it's a warning saying that it is going to be served from your local machine, and legally you are fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this one like that. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to, you can see it's already loaded in my 10.0.0.14. It exactly cloned like as if the SBI website. So obviously the problems in this one, what we see is 10.0.0.14 is actually not the real one. So people can easily figure it out. That's where I told you the techniques of people create a similar domains. Let us say if it is online SBA, right? Some people can create like this. If you see, it looks like online SBA, but it is actually maybe L. I can, instead of I can put L here. Instead of zero, I can put zero here. It looks like online, but actually the first character is not O, it is actually zero. So, and that's where they will basically make it more realistic, so that when you send this specific link to people using LinkedIn, SMS, whatever it is, blah, 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 people feel it is real. Okay, now I'm clicking on click to login. It looks perfectly same as an online website. Now let us look at what is actually happening here. So here it is already showing from where this people are actually trying to log in into this machine. If you see 10.0.0.6 is my actual local IP address of my base machine, and 10.0.0.14 is actually my VM. So that's why you are seeing the people who are trying to log in is a local IP. If I put this in the real world, you will see the real public IPs from the people. Now what I do is I want to show you both techniques. Let us say my login is, the real login of my login is, let us say, okay, the first technique I use is wrong login, some junk password and some junk captcha. Okay. And if I say login, so if you observe what happened is, even if I have given the wrong login password, instead of saying it's a wrong password or whatever it is, it actually redirected to the real website this time. So this is how typically any phishing links happens. They don't take much chances, though there are, be careful. There are enough campaigns we have created where even if you give the right login password or login password first time, it always says it is wrong. So they're also using these techniques to make sure they grab the right information and show it as if like this is a real one. So obviously they're also becoming intelligent, so you have to be very careful. But 99% of the websites, they directly redirect you to the real website. So let us go back and see what happened here. If you look at your console on the Kali box, if you remember, what exactly happened here, and what is the, if you see the user login, if you see here, it's a wrong login. That's exactly what I have given. And the password came in SHA and MD5 because they are converting, they are not transmitting the text into the backend. They are basically sending the hash of it. That's okay. And in this case, I have given a Jeng captcha, and also it found that the login page actually has a captcha. It found captcha is also there. So it actually gave a lot more than that. It also told I am using a Mac OS as a client to get into this particular machine, and the OS version also 10.15.7, and also it said I am using Chrome browser. If you see here, Chrome browser I am using with 86.0.4240.111 as my patch version. So it gives a lot of information which is useful. Though I'm showing you a simple free social engineering toolkit, imagine if you are using a commercial these kind of phishing campaign toolkits, they'll be much more sophisticated, much more better. It has much more options. The same information they actually send you as a mail and all those things. I'm not going to show you examples of all those things because our goal is not really become an expert in doing these things, but to understand how this whole techniques works from the hacker's perspective. Okay, so let us also show one of the simple recorded video what we have done. So this is also done on the latest thing, but this is basically done for Facebook. So you open the set toolkit and click on the option 1, then 2, then 3, then 2. Basically, it opens up the same one, the social engineering toolkit, and then go to the option 2, website attack vectors, and then we go into credential harvesting attack method. That's exactly what we have done, and then the site cloner. So that's what we have done. And here you give the IP address where it exactly you wanted that website to be hosted. In this, again, this is our local IP address for a demonstration purpose. In the reality, we have our cloud servers where we host this. If we have to do some pen testing on that, then what is the URL you wanted to clone? So he is just giving the facebook.com, which is a login page of the facebook.com. Just give facebook.com and enter. Basically, it cloned the main page, and it's ready to be. It is listening, and now you go to you send this link to anybody with that URL. I mean, in this case, the IP address 192 and all those. But he has created a small bit.ly short link so that people generally think bit.ly is always like a redirection, right? It creates a unique basically URL for you, a shorter form. And there are many short URL forms. So he's just giving 192.168.147.193 and create a shortened link. And that shortened link looks much more realistic because that's what a lot of our SMSs contains. And when I open that browser or people click on it, it actually redirects to that specific IP address, the shortened link. You click on it, you can see the IP address is again came back here. It came with the login password, and you give some login Naveen at 123 and password and then login. It again redirects back to Facebook link. You saw that, and now if you look at in the our output, you can see clearly the Naveen at 123 and password is Naveen at WD. So, and it has much more information in terms of cookies and whatnot. So I think the whole thing is, if you see it, it is very, very easy to create phishing links. And in fact, I can give later if somebody is interested to look at how many people in your, in your institute, still people are falling the victims to this kind of phishing campaigns. There is a very nice GitHub project I can point you where it gives a nice dashboard. You can create the phishing campaigns much better, and you can send it to your people. It actually basically creates a nice report, how many people you sent, how many people really clicked on it, how many people really give passwords, and all that thing. It just gives you a nice report. I mean, that's how this phishing, the whole multiple projects are available, and I can just point to you if you're interested there. Okay, now let us move on to the Metasploit side. So as I already said, the Metasploit is all about, so it's called MFS console. So basically the Metasploit framework, as it is just more than one small tool. It is, as I said, it is the largest Ruby written exploit framework, starting from reconnaissance to payloads to create things, and it can do many things for people to do a complete pen testing, starting from things. You can see in this specific one, currently we have 1,900 plus exploits are already there, and it has more than 1,000 plus auxiliary modules, and it has more than 330 post-exploitation payloads. Post-exploitation things also there. And also we have more than 556 plus payloads, and we have encoders and knobs, and 4 evasion techniques are there. I mean, this itself will take a month to become expert. And we really want, if anybody wanted to get into penetration testing, threat hunting kind of stuff, those kind of consulting roles in the future, Metasploit is something which people has to become extremely good at. And if you remember, I just showed you about a link in securitytube.net to become expert using Metasploit already. So let me show you a simple video where how we can create payload and how basically we can get the system access before we talk further. So if you see in this demonstration, we are going to use Google's Chrome vulnerability or a browser hijacking tool. And how to do it is you open MSF console first, and then you can use something called search functionality within the MSF console for Chrome file reader. If any that specific module name is there, it comes. So let us look into that. Open Metasploit. You can directly click on this icon, or you can just give MSF console. Both are same. It invokes the same framework. And so now you just search for the Chrome file reader. It gives the exact module name, then use, and then the entire exploit Windows browser file reader. And you can just use info to understand more information about the payload, what got actually. It gives complete information of options, payloads, descriptions, everything. Now you set payload and reverse TCP and create what URI path. I'm not going to explain all those things because it will take a lot of time, but just to give a very high level thing, we created two things now. One is we chosen the exploit vulnerable payload, and second thing we also, so one is what exploit you want to use is one, and when the exploit is delivered to the victim, when they click on it, what is the CNC server, we typically call it as the payload, what kind of payload has delivered to the customer side or the end user or the victim side to maintain the access or continuity. That's where we used reverse TCP. So the advantage of reverse TCP is, if people are behind proxy, if people are generally browsing on their local IP addresses, they connect back to the CNC controller so that we are reachable always. Because if it's a direct one, we can't. We can't use binding and all, that's a problem. Okay, anyways. So now, so we set the local and path and all those things, then exploit, and then you run it. So it starts listening onto it. So now if anybody clicks on the specific URL, in the previous one, it's a phishing link. The purpose is completely different, to steal cookies, steal passwords, different information. In this case, you are hosting an exploit on a URL. Now, when this URL goes to those people, if that browser actually has an exploit, you get a complete system access. So you will see it now. So this URL will be, again, you can create a short link or you can directly paste it on the browser. And so trying to show you the version of the basically this is the where the Chrome is installed. If you remember the beginning of my previous class, I told everything is a process. If you see in this case, this is the actual binary. This is a portable executable chrome.exe, which is more than 1.5 MB of the file. And when you click on this Chrome, that's where the browser opens, and that's where you see chrome.exe. If you type on it, it opens the browser. Or if you want to look at the version, you can see, and it's just opening up in a sandbox. You see now the browser opens. This is the application now. Now he clicks on the same URL, basically where the exploit has been hosted now. Now the browser has a vulnerability now. If everything goes fine, you will get a reverse connection on your Metasploit where you already using a payload to look for the connections. And you can see server started, it already served the exploit. You can see the worker.js and all those information. And the client side, you don't see any disturbance. But now, if you look at the attacker side, it open up the something called, we call it as a meterpreter sessions. So it now opened up a session between the victim and the server side. Now I can connect to this session and I can pretty much do everything what the end user is doing on his computer. I can do from this command controller. Now I can just click on it and the session and connect to the session, and I can just go ahead and session minus I, and one session is there only. It can maintain multiple sessions. If multiple people clicks on one shot, it opens up multiple sessions to each of those victims, and I can interactively connect to each of the session whatever I want. Now I can do system information. The system information is basically nothing but the information on the victim machine. It's a Windows 7 machine. It is showing a lot of information. I can do there. I can just exfiltrate data. I can do everything whatever I want. So I think so now I can go ahead and do much more damage whatever I want from the attacker side. You can see this is a vulnerable build. It's a 72. Now I can look at more information on the system from the attacker side. I can get a shell. If you see here, the moment I click the shell, it actually opened up a command prompt on the victim machine to the hacker. Now I can completely control his machine. I can do whatever I want, and I can create folders on his machine. I can exfiltrate data. I can listen to his conversations. I can take screenshots. I can do everything. Okay. I think you understood at a high level how the tools in the Kali Luni box are very easily you can use for your own purpose and for your R&D purpose and basically do more things. We saw set social engineering toolkit. We saw Metasploit, a simple examples how to create and how to host an exploit. Though you can even go to the level where you can write your own exploit, own module, things like that. And that's what in that specific video link I have given in the security tube. So now you understood from the phishing side, you understood a little bit from the Metasploit malware side. Now let me take you to an interesting toolkit called sysinternals. Let me type what it is in the Google, you get an idea. Sysinternal toolkit. So this is basically bought by Microsoft from Mark. This guy basically is one of the security researcher, and he created this this entire toolkit in 1996, and he's keep on modifying it wherever required. Now, at that time, it used to be open source, but now it's closed source. A lot of system internal related functions are being exposed, so they don't want people to be known. But if you go to this YouTube, there is a wonderful 1 hour 20 minutes YouTube. I want to show you. It's called malware analysis using sysinternals. This is a must video. I wanted everybody to go intro to the sysinternals for malware analysis. The author himself talks about. Sorry, this is not the one. This is not 10 minutes one. This is supposed to be this one. Malware hunting with this one. I wanted you to go through this specific link, 1 hour 26 minutes. It is extremely step by step how to use sysinternal tools. It has Proc Explorer, it has Sysmon. I'm going to show you 1 or 2 examples of the same now, but I highly encourage you to go through this video. It is very easy to understand, very practical. As you keep watching this video, you can do some exercises. If you are running any courses to your students, I highly encourage you to include this module as a part of malware analysis and threat hunting. Okay, to understand whether the system is compromised or not. Somebody was asking about what are the ways we can, techniques we can use to know whether the system is already compromised or not. So this is the answer for that. Okay, so now let me go back to my system. So this is I downloaded the sysinternal suite. It has multiple tools like this. Let me just open up some of the ones. If you see example, maybe before I get into some real demos. Let me just show you. Okay, Portmon. So Portmon is one of the tool within the part of sys internal tools. Okay, so that is not compiled to this one properly. But let me just show you Proc Explorer. Okay, so Proc Explorer is basically a process explorer. It is like your task manager where you can look at all your running processes, but it shows much more information than that. If you remember in my first session, I talked about a virus total, right? Let us say you have some doubt about this specific lock app.exe. If you wanted to know more about this exact location of the specific lock app, this is the exact location of the specific binary running. It has logmin information and all those things. But if I just right click on this now and check virus total, what basically it does is it submits this specific binary to virus total on the fly and shows you the information what virus total is thinking about this specific file here itself. I will just show you where is it. So that way it is extremely easy for you to easy for you to do more analysis here itself. Now, if I go to view and click on the set columns, and I go to it is as totally is here, but just let me remove all other stuff. It will be really different for you to. A lot of other things are there, which okay. Let me keep these ones. Company is fine. A session command line is fine. Okay. Now, if I just show you. You can see this is the, let me just bring this to the beginning. This is the virus total. If you see now it is showing, I don't know whether it is visible to you or not, it is showing 0 by 76. What does it mean is none of the 76 antiviruses are marking this as a problem. Now, if I wanted to do the same thing for all these ones, one shot, that also I can go and check virus total. Either I can select multiple of them and I can go ahead and do antivirus checks. So it is one very good tool for you to give more information. It also shows you what DLLs are injected into this specific process memory. And it also talks about what are the different strings. There's a command called strings. Basically, what are the ASCII characters part of this binary? You can also look into it. If you understand more about a little bit about forensics, strings, extracting the printable strings in a binary is a very important thing. And also it talks about what are the permissions of this binary and how the memory it is taking into it, what are the different threads are available in this thing. So you get a ton of information, whether it is being signed by somebody or not, whether it is the process is really uh, more information about the metadata and a lot many information about things you can know. Now let me just show you one important tool what I generally use called ProcMon. Process Monitor is it's one of the best tool. In fact, companies created billions of uh, revenue companies on top of this tool itself. So what ProcMon will do is, as I said, everything in your system is a process. When a process is running, what processes it is touching the registry connections, network connections, file IO operations, all those things you can see from here. Let us say, I'll just show you an example. So I wanted to know whenever I open notepad.exe, I wanted to know notepad.exe file binary file, what files it is opened by that. Example, if you see, I already, there is a sdc.txt is there. So let me do notepad.exe. That should be my image path. Let us say ends with notepad.exe, add, and I say okay. Now it is filtering all, you can see it is filtering all the events in the system. There are thousands and thousands of events are happening. File input, output operation, network operations, registry operations, all those things. And only when it matches with the notepad, it shows up there. Now if I just say, if I just save this one, and if I go ahead and click on the file activity, now I go here, I say save. Okay, let me look at the filter again one more time. It is saying reset everything, and then image path, let us say contains notepad, apply. I might have applied a lot of other filters before. You can see here now clearly it shows already notepad is open and it is doing lot of read file operations. And if you really understand what are those files which it is reading, it clearly shows here these are the files which are open and which are touched by notepad. You can see notepad.txt is a process name, and the path of the file which is all, I mean notepad itself also opens notepad, I mean in different way, and it also opens lot many other system files, DLLs and all. But you can clearly see sdc.txt is something which is here, a full path also open. So it gives the relationship between the processes and the operation, whether it is a read, write, executable, it's registry and enumeration related stuff, and the path, what is the file it is touching. It is extremely useful for threat hunter to understand what is happening in the system at a kernel level, so that this kind of rich information typically is not shared by any people, and typically I mean nobody wants you to know this information just like that. So when you're writing your threat hunting models, if you remember in the morning I talked about MITRE framework, so a lot of those indicators of compromise, indicators of attack, those things you extract and put it in the form of rules and use this tool to understand and correlate those things. You get to know a lot of information here. In fact, I mean, there is a tool here. It's called Auto Runs. It itself goes and shows you a lot of information at one place. You wanted to know what all, when you log in, what all applications are running by default. What are the scheduled tasks are already being kept in these specific machines. What are the different services are there? Very easy for you to look into it. What are the different drivers are getting loaded? What is the boot parameters are there? What are the app in it? Because these are all very important in system to really, I mean, to do reverse engineering and whether the system is already hacked or not. A lot of this, this is where the persistence actually happens. The scheduled tasks, services, log on processes, and app init and known DLLs. Is there any other things? So I think these are different tools. If you just like that video, what I just talked to you, in terms of what he mentioned, how to do malware analysis using sysinternal tools, will give you a great information in terms of what exactly you need to look and how to use these tools will be useful. So I just talked about three things. One is how to use Metasploit using the Security Tube website. And I also talked about sysinternal toolkit and showed you the video, especially the malware hunting with sysinternal tools. Because I mean, if you're interested, you must go through it. I don't want to repeat this whole thing because there's no point in doing the same thing when somebody has done. In fact, the guy who has written this whole tool has done it. So that will actually help you a lot. We talked about virus total, we talked about any run, we talked about MITRE framework. So I think these were mostly related to malware analysis, reverse engineering, and those kind of things. So in our upcoming session also, we'll talk more on those things in much more detailed manner. And also I talked about one more phishing link, maybe it's called Fish Tank, where people basically uh, publish all these phishing links. If you wanted to know more about how exactly these phishing links look and how genuine they looks like, all those things, please go to Phishing Tank. It will give you amazing information. I also wanted you to go through this one more website called The Hacker News. Uh, this is a great website. I follow it. All the worldwide cybersecurity related attacks, vulnerabilities, exploits, they just show it in one place. So there is a two more zero-day exploits came under Chrome, and in terms of more information and the further links and the CVE, NVD related common vulnerability exposure and national vulnerability database links also will be published here. I highly encourage you just follow this a specific website if you want to know and keep yourself up to date on what is happening. And I think I want to keep a small break here and take any questions you have on the subjects what we spoke in the last 45 minutes, especially on phishing, spear phishing side, and metasploit and exploit hunting. And the third is specifically on sysinternal tools to do reverse engineering and malware analysis.
Sir, we have a question here from Harvey College of
Yes.
Engineering. Sir, you have
Yes,
showed
yes.
one of the websites where we have all the information about what vulnerabilities have been reported, the hackernews.com. But is there any place where we can get information about what exploitations are, so what vulnerabilities have been solved? Can we get such kind of information? Like there is a vulnerability and that has been resolved by some of the people who are trying to work on these kind of systems. Do we have such kind of information?
Yeah. So basically, NVD and the National Vulnerability Database, uh, and if you remember, if you see this, I was just talking to you about these guys also. There are two things, right? One is where is the vulnerability and what is the state of it. So typically, whether the vendor of the specific example in this case, Chrome is owned by Google, and this is a CVE number. So if you look at the CVE and NVD database, both of these people mentions what is the status of that specific number. What I mean, the way how the numbering system works is CVE, common vulnerability exposure, 2020 is a year, and this is a number which they associated. And if you wanted to know whether this specific number has any exploit already, you can go to this exploit-db.com, which is again maintained by Offensive Security Kalibox team. You can download the exploit. But if you wanted to know whether what is the status of this specific, whether the patch is already available or whether any workaround is available, you simply type that specific vulnerability. They basically maintain this in CVE website itself. Whether there is any in terms of any workaround or any patch or any upgrade is already available for this. So in this specific one, it actually created a couple of days back, and this is also shared by the vendor, publicly disclosed. And then I don't see. Okay, let me just click on fix vulnerabilities of version. This kind has been reserved organization rule that will be used to announce the tools. Let me click on that link, and unfortunately this is a new one. Maybe it has not been but typically they just mention here which is the affected version of the software this specific vulnerability is there and what is the status. So NVD and CVE are the global organizations who are responsible to keep track of all the vulnerabilities and exploits.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So exploit DB will keep the information on the exploit side, and NVD and the CV will keep in the mitigation and workaround and patch side.
Thank you. Thank you.
So in fact, they just for your information, they also manage and give the open APIs if you wanted to gather this information seamlessly into your portals if you want. So they publish the API format so that you can directly query their database using the published API, and you can take that API and integrate with any of your internally developed any projects also. So any other questions you have? I mean, happy to take. But otherwise, I think you are getting a gist of how these two frameworks are developed and what are the different sources we need to really focus on and to do further research and further meaning for even certain. I mean, if you look at all the certs, right, the entire cert in cert Australia, cert US, and cert Europe, all these people also manages the same information, but they again grab from exploit DB, NVD, and CV, all those things into one example. You go to cert in, right? But they do the same thing. I mean, they again do it for their own country related responses where they feel that it is again. If you look at they again have the same memory system. Again, they indirectly depend on the those three sources what I just talked about. So, what is the affected softwares and what are the different again the CV number? What is it? Because they again fall back into the same global information, but again, specific to country level, they release their own day-to-day emergency response newsletters or alerts, especially which are related to that, but the country's public infrastructure, maybe the payment-related ones and whatever it is, or which is targeted to their country, their people, based on the ISP data and different other telecom vendors information, because they're also monitoring at a very high level the data where the attacks are coming and what is happening. In fact, you can clearly see if you see there is a live attack dash board Wi-Fi. I mean, many other companies are managing it. If you look at the threat map, also shows the similar information. The live threat map vector, which is happening in multiple sectors across the world. You can also take a specific feed to your own state and your own interest and all those stuff. They just show a lot of information, and you can also create your own threat maps related to your own IPs you are monitoring, the sources, destinations, and what things are happening on the world. You can go through it. I mean, there again, I don't want to confuse with too much of data, but the goal is logically you understand where to do research, where is information available. The organization like NIST, CIS, and the MITRE frameworks. So these were the people, anyways, responsible for all these information, collecting it from multiple places and keep it at one source. Any other questions you have? I'm happy to take in those these three: phishing related, exploits related, vulnerabilities related, and the reverse engineering and malware analysis using sysinternals toolkits. So there is one more tool. I mean, I didn't talk about to you, but I'm sure if you are doing any type of network related things, you will definitely need to look at this tool called, I mean, see, if you look at this Kali box, it's clearly, I mean, organized in the right way. There's something called Wireshark, which is again an open source toolkit, especially for network monitoring packets. So you can always mention the source. You can take your network card into promiscuous mode and gather the information. Let us say I wanted to do it on ETH0, which is my primary LAN card. It shows the entire, I have to give the root privileges, and it exactly shows. I'm just going to stop it. So you can even save this one. So I can even look into the entire IP header of the packet, what is happening. And this itself is again a big story. I'm sure there are enough number of YouTube videos, and other universities have already made a very nice videos on, or series is on Wireshark framework and how to basically do packet inspection and analysis, how to look for the data within the packet, and how to even decipher the SSL traffic, how to terminate the SSL traffic, and look for more anomaly detection on the IP header and data packet level. So this is all on the network side. And if you wanted to look at the system side, sysinternals. I spoke about Procmon and other tools like whatever are mentioned as a part of that specific video will be really useful to you. And in general, you can obviously go ahead and look into any of these things, but that's again very generic. But again, you want to do brute force attacks, you wanted to do password stuff, you want to do engineering tools, you want to forensics, post exploitation, whatnot. You can basically give a good direction to your student community or a projects to do further more meaningful dig into your own infrastructure, or creating labs, or creating use cases. In fact, I highly encourage people to reach out to the nearest enterprises or government organizations, take up some of the use cases from those people and try to give those as projects to the students, and so that students can go back and do the research on their UAT environment or staging environment, not on the production, so that the governments are ready to cooperate with people to give their staging environment or a UAT environment for more research, and give some meaningful feedback for them to improve, starting from source code analysis to the production level. I think that's my suggestion. So any more questions? Otherwise, we can take a lunch break and again come back at 3 o'clock so that we can do our last session for today. I think I covered multiple things. Each and every subject is heavy in their own way. But my goal is to touch and just point you to the directions so that we can continue these communications in the WhatsApp group or different other forums I already mentioned. But I think that's what it is. If you have any questions, I'm ready to take. Otherwise, I think we are happy to take a lunch break and assemble back at 3 o'clock for our last session. Again, that is going to be more of showing you your tools and understand the use cases and understand more on the MITRE framework. I wanted to really how to map the MITRE framework, what are the different tools are available, how techniques are available, especially to cover the whole attack framework. So I think that's our next session. Otherwise, back to our coordinator.
Dear participants, you have any other questions? Chandrasekhar sir, one question is from participant. How IoT can face phishing attack? In which layer of IoT architecture?
See, IoTs are basically, if you understand, the latest IoT devices are ultimately, if you look at it, in fact, yeah, that's a good one. I will give you very good links to you. In fact, we are also creating a lot of R&D labs on IoT. Nowadays, entire IoT, anything you take, the programmable devices, they're all coming with the Linux portable kernels. So whatever, it's not that we have a low power devices, very completely written on the thing. We actually get in the complete kernel of the Linux, even in your TVs, cars, or any smart city projects, light, and any other government related ones. We are actually getting the full kernel Linux ones. So these ones are specifically tailored. The OSs are tailored, and like your POS machines, right? If you look at POS machines, or if you go to airports, you look at those display systems, they're actually Windows operating systems, but not the entire OS is, modules are there. They removed a lot of unnecessary things. They only kept the basic kernel, basic OS user space layer, and only the minimum layers which are required by removing all unnecessary. Same in the nowadays IoT infrastructure is coming with the Linux kernel, and I will point you to a very good place because we have complete 7 layers there. Not too many phishing attacks will happen on the IoT environment. Typically, what happens is by mistake, those IoT environments, people like cameras, sometimes we open this for the public without, implementing the firewalls rules only to get access from only this command and control center or only from the necessary ones. So people try to exploit those ports which are open and the vulnerabilities within that specific non-updated kernel versions are the base versions. I think otherwise, because nobody's, I mean, there is no user interface directly exposed on the IoT devices, right? They have to go through the ports which are open, or they connect to the interface network which are already controlling the IoT environment. They attack the IoT network, base network, and from there they try to access, especially in manufacturing industries and scientific related ones. So I'll give you in the next coming session some links to you where you can buy those devices and create your R&D kind of environment for further IoT related research.
Dear participants, I think you have no more questions. If you have any other questions,
Yeah. If you have questions, please ask me in the next
please
session.
feel free to interact with our
Sir,
person.
I have a question.
Yeah, please, ma'am.
Actually, how this enterprise security you have mentioned also use cases, because I know about one use case of enterprise security, which one can be an email tracker of all the employees of a particular organization. So, likewise, can you give us some more use cases so that which we can give it to our students? You can actually do later also. You can type it out.
So typically in enterprise level, we do multiple things. One is called architectural review, especially when companies are getting merged. When a company gets, let us say Infosys gets a project from Nokia, Infosys gets a project from Cisco. So they have something called ODCs, offshore data centers. When their network is supposed to be get accessed from these Infosys campus, they typically open VPN networks or WAN ports, I mean WAN network. So we do architectural review, we do defense in depth review to make sure, starting from their firewalls to the endpoint antivirus, whether they are really using all the tools properly, whether all these tools are actually configured properly, user access controls are there, and from there, whether all these tools are migrated or connected to the SOC, central SOC, be it ArcSight, be it a QRadar, or be it a open source log monitoring systems like Splunk or even ELK platforms. So on those platforms, again, how is the threat modeling? Whether they covering all the MITRE framework related ones, compliance related ones. So we also look from the privacy aspect, whether the data in rest and motion and logic related memory, how is the data is actually being manipulated, and how the GDPR compliances are really enforced using different technologies. Now is BCPDR related ones are there. So that is one thing. And then again, employee resistance and employee education related one, as you talked about, conducting different social engineering campaigns targeted to employees, targeted to projects, targeted to organization. And the last thing is source code analysis and the brand related reputation ones. Because nowadays we are seeing a lot of internal employees stealing the data or sharing the data to the competitors or outside. When they go out of the organization, they try to take this IP and try to create some competitive products. So those kind of things are happening. So how organizations are creating enough data leak prevention kind of things or data theft related ones, how they incorporated this in their entire architecture, especially in the CI/CD process, continuous integration and continuous development process. I think these are the couple of things we can definitely look into and improve upon or do some services on top of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, sometimes, I mean, you may not get questions immediately, but please feel free to contact us back anytime later also, so that we are more than happy to discuss and talk, and maybe clarify or point to the right direction, so that because nowadays information is free, it's just all about getting the right information, work on it, and put the students on the right thing so that they can get something meaningful out of it rather than a simple R&D project. Because as ma'am said, it always should be a use case driven rather than a simple R&D. I think that should be our way of going forward, in my opinion. So thank you. I think we are ready for lunch. Maybe.
Yes.
Feeling.
Dear participants, we will we will end this session and we will have lunch and we will rejoin here. Thank you very much for your patience since the last 3 days. And also, I think you are not bored, and because all our resource persons are fabulous speech renderer, so you have enjoyed it. And this will be continued even in the next session. And Chandrasekhar Reddy sir will continue in the next session at 3 o'clock, sir. At 3
Yes.
o'clock, our session starts. Dear participants, have a lunch, have a nice time, and come back and join us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sir, thank you, sir.
You all.